Hey, everybody. Welcome to Future Commerce, typically a podcast about cutting edge and next generation commerce. But today's a live stream. Welcome to our live stream. Brian's here. Say hi, Brian.
What's up, everybody?
And we have a special guest, Mr. Ash Reed from Buffer.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
We did it. We brought someone onto the live stream. We've got a slow clap for Ash. Longtime supporter of Future Commerce. I'll just say it for him. He loves the show. Can't get enough of it. But in your own words, Ash, what is it you do? And maybe tell people a little bit about like where you sit in the ecosystem and how we came to know each other.
Yeah, so I've been working at Buffer, which is a social media marketing platform, for about 5 years now. And at Buffer, we support a number of like small businesses. And around 18 months, 2 years ago, we really kind of honed in on the commerce and D2C space as one of our key target customers. These brands are always at the forefront of social and pushing us to release the best features and always kind of pushing platforms using all the new stuff. So it just felt like a natural fit. And from there, kind of really just kind of dived in and tried to learn all I could about D2C and commerce. And day to day, I lead all of our content operations. So I'm head of content at Buffer, I lead our blogs, podcasts, and almost anything that we publish, I'll hopefully have a hand in.
And you got the scoop too. When we first met last year, it was right around the Pattern Brands launch, and I remember, Brian, you remember how excited we were that we landed that podcast.
That was super fun.
Yeah,
fun.
Very cool to meet Nick and Emmett, and we were like, we all like very close to their launch or their announcement. We got them on the show, and I remember they were on David Perel's North Star as well, and I was like, man, what a great get. And then Ash comes out of nowhere with, here's a multi-part series of the whole build in progress called Breaking Brand. So cheers, sir. You've done. I'm going to cheers you with my LaCroix. You did it. What an incredible story. And how did you kind of get into that, and specifically like the podcast conceit, and how did you approach that project and sort of set it up to be a recurring piece?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of parts. Like the first one was, we've been podcasting at Buffer for like 2 years. We had a weekly show, The Science of Social Media, and we kind of were looking, at that time, we were actively exploring ideas for second series and what we can do. And at that same time, we'd been learning more about the D2C world, and I'd kind of seen that most of the brands that were coming out had been touched by one of Red Antler, Gin Lane, or like Partners in Spade. And I just reached out to Emmett and was like, I want to write a story about how you have such a high success rate. Like everything you touch basically turns to gold. Like, what are the secrets to creating a modern brand? And we just went back and forth over email for a couple of weeks. And then one day Emmett just kind of messaged me and said, can you give me a call? I've got something else to talk through. And he told me about the transition to Pattern. Was just like, we're shutting down Gin Lane later in the summer. We're launching our own consumer brands business. And maybe there's something bigger we can do there. And instantly in the back of my mind, I was like, that's the second series. This is it. And then I kind of hung up from the call from Emmett, like excitedly went to Slack, shared the idea with our team. We were going back and forth on it. And it all kind of just snowballed from there. And the main thing in the back of my mind was just like, this is a great story. Don't mess this up. Like, we have to make sure we do this properly. And
it's what Brian says to me all the time.
So yeah, it was just like, I just knew it was such an interesting story that we kind of couldn't do it justice on our own. Like we produce a weekly show, but we don't know how to produce a documentary. We don't know how to do it all properly. So we went out and hired a production company, and again, had a bit more back and forth with Emmett and the team, just like, how much access can we get? What can we actually talk about? Like, what's the story within the story? Because I think 2 or 3 times we were in our like production company's office in London, just like putting post-it notes all over the wall, mapping out what we thought was going on. And then we'd have another call with Emmett, Nick, and Camille and go back to the drawing board, because what we thought was the story wasn't the story, or there was something else. And yeah, that's kind of how it came about. And then it was just like a lot of back and forth. What do we want it to be? How can we produce this? And yeah, kind of really pleased with the end result. I think it was just such a great story, and our production company done an amazing job like pulling that all together.
So cool. I think you've done such a good job. And I feel like this may have been, maybe I'm assuming too much, a jumping point for you as you built out this story to start conceiving of things you can do yourself as well. And shortly after releasing the podcast, you actually released your own site. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about Cozy and what that is.
Yeah, so Cozy is a place to discover like modern homeware brands. And you're right, I think like the Breaking Brand series really introduced me to this world. And I think coincided with that, like I was moving house last year and had a few rooms to fill, and every search result was landing me on Wayfair or some other company, and they do an amazing job of capturing people, and I definitely have no issues with them. But I just knew there's so many cool, interesting brands out there that are maybe a little bit smaller or could maybe be a bit more meaningful. And I just think the brands in your house you spend a lot of time with, and I wanted to kind of fill the house with stuff that we really connected with, rather than just like the first thing that appeared on Google. And I think, yeah, having had exposure to this world through Breaking Brand, and I think through Buffer as well, like every week I would go through and look at all of the D2C brands that have signed up and use our platform. And I just realized there were so many of these brands out there. And I know they exist. I think a lot of people know they exist, but unless you're specifically searching for the brand name in Google or you see them on Instagram ads, it's really hard to actually find some of these homeware brands.
Yeah, or they're spending some amount of money to acquire you, and you may not be particularly in market for something. I find that the brand discovery piece is really difficult. Regardless of the category, I'm always interested in discovering new brands, but there's not been a decent way of finding new and undiscovered brands. I feel like there's a few folks in our industry that are trying to solve that, but for the most part, it's like if you don't come across it in the link soup that is Lean Lux, then then you'll miss it. And even then, it's a very narrow lens, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, I subscribe to like Lean Lux and a few of those other newsletters, and I think there are there's a few sources for people that are kind of in and around the industry. And I think what I'm trying to do is just kind of be the discovery engine for people that maybe don't even know all these brands exist, or don't feel super close to consumer brands
Right.
and business. They just want to find a new sofa or a new desk to build
So
their home office.
Maybe you
I feel
could
like there's a lot of those people.
Oh my God. I mean, probably more of them than there ever will be of, folks who, rant about brands on podcasts. But yeah, maybe, so we mentioned it earlier, the domain is livingcozy.com, right? So Cozy, tell us about Cozy. You said it was inspired by you were moving and you were looking for stuff on your own. But what specifically? And you mentioned discovery is something you're trying to solve, but like maybe just in a few, just to kind of sum it up, like what specifically is the site and what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, so I kind of called it like your source for modern homeware brands, and it's basically just a kind of site to discover brands. It lists all of the brands I discover, all of the ones I can find, and tries to just help to categorize them into like furniture, outdoors, cleaning, bathrooms. So whatever you're looking for, the goal is eventually you'll be able to come to Cozy and find a number of brands that fit the profile of what you need.
I think this is really important. I actually was just recently doing a search for like home publications just to see what like for something else. And as I started to do a search, it's like you said, like the homepage, first page, like that, it was like it had Better Homes and Gardens, and it had a couple of other like publications, Martha Stewart, Joanna Gaines. But a lot of these publications had a very specific motif. And like Joanna Gaines is obviously followed in mass, but it's all
And highly
promoting
rated on
her
our
stuff.
9x9 report, by the way. Let's not
Yes.
to disparage
No.
Magnolia at
It's
all.
amazing.
Yeah.
What she's done is incredible. But it's all her own stuff. A lot of it's her stuff. She's promoting her stuff. And so I was like, there's actually a huge like hole. There's a gap here in terms of content and, like you said, discoverability. Like I would love, or I love being able to go on your site and see brands like Industry West on there, or Burrow, or Floyd, who we recently had on the show, and all in one spot. Like it's a specific motif, and I just can't find something out there that's like doing a really good job of like bringing that motif to me. And so I was like, when I saw the site, I was like, this is it. This is what we need.
I'm pretty sure he was
Thank
like,
you.
"This is so dope." Is how he described.
Probably.
Yeah, I think like, initially it did just start as my pain point. So like before the site, I had an Instagram folder where I just kind of saved basically any home ad that came up. I'd save the brand, put it in a folder. That kind of graduated to a spreadsheet. Then around like Christmas time, I had a little bit of time off, a little bit bored maybe of watching Christmas movies that I've seen a million times, and just started kind of learning Webflow and putting it all together in there. And I think over a number of months, it's kind of spiraled, got bigger and bigger. And then I launched it, and it was one of those things where like I just put a tweet out and 10, 15 people replied. And to me, that was a signal. I was like, this is something I should explore a bit further. And then like Emmett reached out after seeing it on Twitter, and he kind of really, I think, helped me to think about it and through the lens of like the millennial consumers. Like there's not too many publications for them. I think there's a ton of really great home publications out there, but a lot of them I think focus on maybe like the generation above, or people that are maybe buying their like forever home or upsizing, not necessarily the generation that are like figuring this whole home thing out, which is kind of the stage I'm around at the moment.
Yeah. There's so I guess what started is like you are doing with publishing, by the way, because you mentioned Webflow, and Brian and I had a whole thing about about the the sort of no code idea of or low code, some sort of modern platform that shortens the path between the creator and the consumer. And so I don't know if you would characterize it this way, but you're a publisher now. Like you're an aggregator and a publisher, and you are creating stories and interesting content that is unique to a certain vertical, and you are using the modern publishing stack. I'm interested, as because we talk a lot about the direct to consumer marketing stack or the direct to consumer e-commerce stack. I'm curious what that stack looks like for you, and how easy or difficult it was for you to start to realize and bring those ideas visually to life that you that you had been sort of munching on.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a learning curve with Webflow. I think like it was kind of learning the first 10% was, I felt like I was flying. Like I was using it for a couple of hours. I'd set up some CMS categories. Like I had essentially like the brand, what is the back end of the brand set up, and then hit a few, like honestly, like a few weeks or months of roadblocks with how to actually design a thing. And in the end, I just kind of bought a template from the Webflow store that vaguely resembled what I wanted. It had a few elements that I could use. And then I was just like, from there, I can kind of just hack it, try and reverse engineer how things are built. And now the site kind of still sits on what was the bones of that template, but kind of looks nothing like it. And from there, it was then like, I'd use Zapier a little bit through work, but then figuring out like what can I do with that, and I now use that as I had it set up for part of the reviews on the site for a while. Also use it just to capture emails and send the email addresses off to various places. And yeah, like I think the main learning curve was just visually, how do I make something on the front end look how I want it to?
Welcome to like modern website design and building. That's what you just
You do
did.
it
I think
yourself.
is
Yeah.
yeah, it's you do it yourself. Exactly. Like it's leveraging things that are out there and taking them and making them your own. And you've done exactly that, which I think this is what a lot of people are doing right now because they can, which is it's so cool to hear your story just as sort of as evidence of that.
But it's not enough
Yeah.
for it to just exist. I think you have to draw, you have to continue to create reasons to come back to it as a trying to attract an audience. And I'm interested in that because I think the long form pieces that you've created, the blogs, are incredible, very, very interesting writing and very long form. And the newsletter is brilliant too. So maybe you could tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that, because I think that's really differentiating here. Is it's not just like an aggregator or like a, hey, here's a collection of brands that you'll get bored of building at some point. It's there seems to be a bigger story or a bigger focus. Maybe you could let us in on what that, that journey might be.
Yes, I think there's a couple of angles there I'm going for. Like, my background in content, like I've done a lot of SEO stuff. So there's definitely like a long-term play there of in 6 to 12 months, can I be generating a significant amount of traffic through search? But anyone who's worked in search will tell you that's a slow and painful journey. So I kind of didn't want to put all of my chips in that basket. And a big part of what I'm trying to do with the site is to kind of humanize the brands a little bit. And I think, from speaking to Emmett and learning their story and their approach to building the brands, like founder stories and having authentic reasons to exist are really big things for modern consumer companies. And you don't necessarily get that from a review site or from an Instagram ad. So what I'm trying to do is gradually just like work through the brands. And I've launched a behind the brand series, which is interviews with founders. And I'm trying to just put like snippets from the interviews on each brand's profile so that you can kind of get an idea for what the brand is, but then also why they exist and what they kind of do for the world. Because I think consumers these days don't just want a sofa, they want a sofa that's sustainably made and can be recycled when they're done with it and can grow with them or move with them. And I think these points are really important and selling points. So I want to kind of bring that through and let that shine through. And then with the newsletter, I'm a big fan of newsletters. I was just kind of realized the other week I consume most of my media now through individual publishers and newsletters. And, as I add a brand to the site, I subscribe to their newsletter and then once a week just kind of open that inbox that has hundreds and hundreds of emails and just try and filter through and pick out like the new interesting launches, the collaborations, and the stuff that might be interesting to that audience. Because I don't think many people other than like those of us in and around the industry will subscribe to that many newsletters and really have time to keep on top of what 100 brands are launching and producing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, like just trying to, I think, build relationships with all of the brands on the site. I posted, a couple of pieces with like Bloomscape on how to launch or get started with gardening in your apartment, a piece with Graffiti on how to choose wall art. And I think like as I'm building that audience, it's like how much can I partner with some of the brands that have an existing audience and try and get in front of those as well.
So smart. Yeah, I think partnering on an audience is a great way to grow them and to pull in and sort of share audiences. I think it's actually something that a lot of these brands need right now as well, is to be able to sort of help, fill in the gaps and be there when a customer is looking for a specific piece. And it's also interesting. I think that you talk about how the way we consume media is changing. The way we consume furniture is also changing, and as that's sort of the main focus of the site right now. Um, Talk to me a little bit about how you're going to address this. I was just talking to Kyle from Floyd about this. Like when I was a kid, a couch purchase was an incredibly considered purchase back for my parents, right? And now looking ahead, like we've moved into more disposable, like this is something that's going to be used and disappear, and it's practically an impulse purchase. And Floyd's sort of saying, hey, we're taking the long view, we're going back to more like thoughtful, considered purchases that are going to last us. How is like the view of furniture, like are you looking to reflect back to consumers the changing views, or are you looking to help set some of those views?
Yeah, I think some of it is kind of just like reacting to the way consumer behavior has changed, because like I do think that we are moving back to that world of everything being a little bit more considered. And instead of buying a sofa for the now, we're looking at, will this sofa grow with me, like, from my first apartment to my second apartment? Or, like, is it something that if I no longer have need for it, can it be recycled, or does it go straight to the dump? And I think these are things that people really consider now that maybe they didn't so much like 5 to 10 years ago. So I'm trying to kind of, I think, reflect that and give people these informations, like, what are the key things, like, can it be recycled, can it be reused, what's it made from, like, where is it made? These are all things that I think consumers are becoming more and more aware of and definitely care about a lot more. So I think part of it is to try and reflect what the brands are already doing, what they're seeing is going on in the market. But then also, I think as the publication grows, I kind of would like to take on some of that responsibility to just say, like, this is how we think things should be. Because I think like a lot of there's a really great piece I read from a content marketing company called Animals a while back, and they just kind of said, like, Wirecutter wins because it has opinions and it doesn't just list things. And at the moment, I am kind of in the listicles style content quite a bit, but it's like, over time, can the publication develop its opinions and become a trusted source? So, like when we say this is the most sustainable furniture brand, or if you care about sustainability, this is the brand for you. So yeah, I think for now it's kind of like reflecting what's going on in the industry, learning, like I'm still new to this world as well. So trying to learn as much as I can and share that. And over time, I think build opinions and for Cozy to kind of form its own place in the world.
There's
So
this really interesting. I think everybody of a certain age, I shouldn't say everybody. If you're as old as I am, which is, not getting any younger, you've probably helped your friends move apartment and, help them move some furniture, and you come across that big, dresser that is made out of lead shot, and but they're heirloom pieces. They have a story to them, and I think that the story behind those pieces in and of itself is something that's really interesting. That is they are like a product of the era in which they were created. Oftentimes created by people who really cared about the work and the craftsmanship that they put into those pieces. And we went through, a couple generations of lower quality, higher, like high frequency of consumption, lower quality of product. And then through the last generation of, we just don't want to own anything at all. Everything should be, fractionalized. And I really sense this return to that more air. Like that was the thing that came out of that Floyd interview, Brian, that I latched onto, is this idea of having pieces that can last a generation, that would be a piece that you cherish, that was something that cost you something, and so you value it in a different way. And sure, it might be something you assembled, but it's a thing that you'll cherish and you'll hold on to. And I think that there's something to be said about that, and it's sort of the impetus of why I wrote the piece, The New Formal, which is this idea that we haven't really lived in our homes for the longest time anyway. We spent all of our time out of home, whatever we're doing, taking cruises, going, all the stuff we can't do right now anyway. And I really sense this return to welcoming people and our closest friends and our social circles back into our homes to experience our, to experience our homes in a new way, and to come back to that place of like the gathering and your friends who are real people and not just, people on Twitter that or on Facebook that you disagree with in their politics. I'm curious if you could kind of give us a little bit of a take on that and sort of this trend that we might be seeing towards, or this moment that we're in where all of these things are converging, and how Cozy might be able to tell that story, because I think that that's really interesting, and it's not just about finding something that aligns with your values, which is I think a very modern consumer sort of approach, but it's maybe something deeper than that that's helping people to connect with other humans in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, I think like the heirlooms point really kind of struck a chord. I think I've seen a few brands, like there's, I think Fern, which is like a chair company from San Francisco, like they say they craft modern heirlooms, and I think Floyd and certainly a few others I've seen, they're kind of like, building products to last for 10 years that grow with you and move with you. And I think it's just kind of a shift away from disposable kind of culture, but also as a generation like millennials and Gen Z move around a lot more. And it's not like, I think in some ways, the things in our homes are as much the home as the place you're in. And it's kind of like building products that, even if you move city to city or just across the block, like you can take what you have already and you can easily take it down, easily reassemble it in your new place, and instantly it feels like your home. And I think that's something really important that a lot of brands are focused on right now, is like, how do we grow with people and move with people? And yeah, I think as well, like right now it's forced on us that, we're not socializing a lot outdoors, but I think it's something that's going to kind of continue, that we'll welcome people into our homes a lot more. We'll do a lot more kind of socializing around a couple of drinks around your dining table. And I think in that world, like the brands that we share our home with become more and more important, because they are a bigger part of our lives. It's not just somewhere where you have breakfast for 5 minutes before you go to work. It's somewhere where you share meals with the family. And I think also you need to be really versatile, because that same table you're having dinner with is probably the one you're maybe playing cards and having a drink with your friends on a Friday night. And there's just so much, I think, that goes into modern consumer purchases and demands of what we want from furniture now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that there's so many pieces here that are kind of tied together. This idea of like having a piece of furniture that has a story associated with it and a memory. So it makes so much sense that for Cozy, story would sort of be the front and center. And so the fact that you're writing so much just makes a lot of sense. It reflects sort of what's happening with furniture right now, and it also sort of, all of this is pointing to considered purchase, because a lot of these things are, if you want to have something that lasts, and you want to have something that is sustainably created, and you want to have something that you're going to have lots of good memories at, you're going to think about it before you make that purchase. And so I think you're entering the scene in a really important time in the furniture industry, and where it's headed. And I'm very excited to see. So actually, I'd love to hear, like, where do you see the future of all this? What's the next steps for Cozy?
Yeah, I think right now it's just kind of building, for me, like building a solid base. And I think just kind of figuring out where I can take it. So, the mailing list has got a few hundred people on it now. The site traffic is growing a little bit, like got a couple of pages showing up on like decent search results pages. So it's now ranking like number 1 or 2 for direct consumer furniture to one of our blog posts. And also just experimenting a little bit with revenue, because like right now it's me, like maybe it'll always be me. I think I'd love for it to become like a small media company. And I think, yeah, it's just kind of building that established base and seeing, how can it drive revenue? How can it make money to then like reinvest and get bigger? Because there's only so much I can kind of scale my time right now. And I don't know, I'd love to go through all of the 200 brands on the site and fill out all of the profiles. Like right now, there's probably 10 that I'm kind of like super proud of and feel finished. And then there's like 190 that are various stages of complete. So yeah, I think it's just kind of getting that to a stage where, you know, maybe not a case of adding 1,000 more brands. It's like, can the 200 I have now be, you know, really, really, really great resources and like the best place to learn about Borrow or Inside Weather or DIMS. And, you know, I'm looking at maybe trying to build out some community aspects. I think reviews is a really important thing. Like that's come up a lot with people I speak to, as, you know, they know there are all of these brands out there, and especially, you know, as they're more considered purchases, you want to know that the sofa is going to last 10 years, not just the copy on the website tells you it's going to last 10 years. And I think that's, you know, another important thing is just build out the community, and maybe it can be its own kind of niche, like TripAdvisor for your home or something like that, where you can go and no matter what product you want to buy, you can find brands that are, you know, carefully selected, reviewed, and you can not just find out what they sell, but you can find out their story, who's behind it, why they started it. So yeah, there's a lot there to do, and just kind of gradually taking, I think, like baby steps towards hitting that vision.
It's awesome. Well, I'm certainly excited to see where things go, and I think that we're going to keep track of what you do next and be there along the way. So
yeah, I'm
we're
rooting
all
for you,
in.
man. This
Yeah.
is killer stuff. Yeah, when that affiliate, you know, when you build your big house with the swimming pool and Uncle Scrooge money bin in the backyard on those affiliate dollars, you know, remember us, invite us over.
Oh, we will.
This is the start of something really cool. I can see this going in so many different ways, you know, from like a, you know, Yelp or Angie's List or all the, I mean, there's so many ways to really take this kind of a vertical, and I think you're doing a brilliant job already. I look forward to getting the newsletter. I queue it in my inbox. Like I leave it in my inbox for days so that I have enough time to read it. Like I just, and I think that's the hallmark of quality of something that like you really highly prize, is that you're willing to set time aside to consume it. That's that says a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think you should be very proud of what you're built.
Thank you. Yeah, I think like honestly, like these little kind of moments of support are really important. They kind of, I don't know, it's nice to know that it's not just me that cares about the site and other people are using it. So yeah, really appreciate you kind of being you know, helping out from day one and helping to spread the word. And it's always great to chat with you about all things consumer.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. Remind people where they can get the newsletter, where they can get to the website.
Yeah, so the website is livingcozy.com. That's COZY, so the US spelling, not the UK one. And there's a link in the top corner to the newsletter, but if you want to go directly there, it's livingcozy.com/newsletter. And that comes out every other Sunday at the moment.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Ash, for coming on the show. And man, wish you the best of success. And thanks for doing this live stream with us. Really awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, y'all. Take care out there. Hey, listen, while you're busy subscribing to his newsletter, go subscribe to ours as well. Future Commerce Insiders, you can catch it over at futurecommerce.fm. And we've got this week, we just put out Retail Rebirth. That's a thing we're very proud of, and I'd love for you to check it out. You can get that at futurecommerce.fm/retail rebirth and find out what the new retail rhythm is and how your brand can get in that groove. Find that groove, getting that new consumer. We ain't having summer. Everything's canceled. You know, Q3 is the new Q4 groove. It's going to be really good. This report is really awesome. Getting a lot of great feedback on it. I know it's going to help you chart out the path for your business. So check that out. futurecommerce.fm/retail rebirth. Brian, any last words?
No, just thank you so much, Ash. Have a good one.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.